Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, taking care of business today with Shelley Vandenberg, who is president and CEO of Bromwich+Smith. Thanks for joining us today, Shelley.
Thank you, Mario. Great to be here.
Well, let me just start asking you about the state of finances in the country when it comes to both on a personal level, especially, but also on the business level. We are seeing insolvencies on the rise, and in some places rising pretty strongly. What are your thoughts on what's happening there in the state of finances for people?
Yeah, thank you. So, there's so many factors that are creating a number of stresses for Albertans and all Canadians. The last number of years through the pandemic have really accumulated a lot of financial obligations for Canadians. A lot of debt was put on hold, or financial institutions were really good about pausing payment, and then it was compounded with rate of inflation and rising interest rates and a lot of other economic stressors and factors. So it's really become this almost tsunami of compound effect on the average person, where they're really struggling in handling their debt. There's layoffs happening in a variety of different sectors. Companies are cutting back again because costs are rising. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of people that are approaching organizations like ourselves to help with debt relief, and businesses as well.
So, when it comes down to whether it's a business or whether it's a person, it's that debt that becomes a problem, isn't it? And I'm just wondering, I know that in talking with a lot of business groups, the pandemic, a lot of the businesses went into more and more debt and loans, that they had to get through the government, and I imagine people as well. Even though there were some support programs, they probably went into more debt just to get by, right? And so debt, I guess, is debt the main issue here?
Well, certainly there's a number of factors that can cause an individual to have challenges managing their financial life. And certainly some people can get overextended. But often, in more cases, there's unplanned or unforeseen circumstances that can cause a really good person who's done a very good job all their life managing their debt, have some challenges, whether they've lost their job. Health challenges is certainly rising. You mentioned, all the government programs that were out there to help Canadians, and some now are experiencing the ask to pay that back. There's a variety of circumstances, like family breakdown or a divorce, or again other issues that can cause people to have challenges managing their debt. So it's really unique and individual, but we're seeing a lot of common factors arise over the last few years.
And as you look into the future, not to crystal ball things, but what are your thoughts as we, in the coming months and for the rest of this year, when it comes to the challenges that Canadians face with interest rates, elevated, costs of everything on the rise?
Well, unfortunately, Mario, I can't predict the future, but certainly what we're seeing is more and more people are reaching out to ask for help on debt relief, whether it's their friends or family, or us, like a licensed insolvency trustee. So times are tough, and I do believe that we're going to continue to see an increase in people struggling, and that will need help. We're seeing, stresses, through the whole financial sector. And that really can put a lot of instability and your faith in the credit system. So we're hoping that things get better, but we're going to be here to help Canadians that need our help.
So tell me just a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a Canadian-wide organization. We're in the 9 of the 10 provinces, and we're here to help Canadians with debt relief options. And there's a variety of different options that are available to people, but really what we're focused on here is financial literacy, so helping people understand how to handle their money and see if there are other options for them instead of going down the path of a consumer proposal, or again, in the worst case, potentially a bankruptcy.
Okay,
So
and
we work with those individuals on those solutions.
can you talk a little bit about, for, again, you mentioned financial literacy, and I think that's one of the key issues in this country, that a lot of people, believe that there's a lot of financial illiteracy in this country for the average person. But some of these terms, I think people may not understand. So could you talk a little or explain a little bit, what is a consumer proposal? What is insolvency?
Sure, absolutely. So to your first question about financial literacy, you're right. There's a lot of misconception, misinformation, and confusion around that term. But generally, what we are trying to do is help people understand not just the basics of money, but how to use it, not just for, to deal with difficult things, but debt can actually be good if it's handled well. And we're also really focused on, taking the judgment, the stigma away out of asking for help, and really becoming more comfortable talking about money. And I think that's a lot of the challenges that people face, is that money is an emotional subject, and people are, whether embarrassed or feeling guilty or feeling less than around needing help around money. So I think that's what we really focus on in financial literacy. So, in terms of options, a consumer proposal is essentially an arrangement between a licensed insolvency trustee and a consumer that's looking for help in debt relief. And so we work between them and their creditors in usually paying a portion of their debt back instead of the full amount. And there's a variety of different ways that we can work with consumers on that. Bankruptcy generally is where you are in the most time releasing you from the majority of all your debt, which can mean that you will not have to pay them back. But again, both consumer proposals and bankruptcies really protect you against legal action that creditors may take. And again, not each option will be the right option, so we'll take the time to review all the options available and help you determine what is the best for your financial situation.
I wanted to touch on something you just said there about, people like they don't like talking about this stuff, right? Especially when you're, yeah, it's fine when the money's rolling in and you've got a lot of money around, but when people start getting in trouble financially, they almost go into a cocoon, don't they? They just maybe not only not want to talk to it about it, but almost like they want to ignore it.
Right. And we do see that with a number of consumers that we talk to, is some will leave it to the very last end where they're have exhausted all options. And we talked about that earlier about people are afraid to ask for help. Money causes a lot of different emotions, and again, a lot of it is either guilt or embarrassment, or feel that they failed, or that there's some flaw with them. But that is the farthest thing from the truth. A lot of good people can run into some difficult situations, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. So getting over that stigma and asking for help is the right thing to do. And I think that is why, as you mentioned, you're seeing people sometimes will hide from it or not talk about it. It shouldn't be a taboo subject. We all need money. We all need some credit at some form of time. And it should be a subject that we're all comfortable talking about.
All right. And Shelley, so you, congratulations are in order. I understand you recently took on this position at Bromwich+Smith. Tell me just a little bit about your background and how you ended up to where you are now.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm proud to say that I am a native Albertan, a third generation in a family. I have spent over 30 years within the financial services industry, primarily in banking and in Calgary. And in that time, I've spent the majority of my career within the credit union sector, leading first Calgary Financial and Legacy Financial, one of the largest credit unions in Alberta, and I was president. I was also the first woman president in that company's history. I also was then later approached to take on a new opportunity and lead the largest and number one provider of health, dental, and travel benefits in Saskatchewan. So I packed up, moved to Saskatoon to lead as CEO of Saskatchewan Blue Cross.
Hmm.
And I was also the first woman CEO in that company's history as well.
And now here.
And here I am. So there was a really great opportunity to take my background in financial wellness and health wellness and really bring them together. So, you know, in both sides, I've seen how financial stress can lead to poor physical, mental, and social health. And I've also seen how the reverse can happen. So it really was a wonderful opportunity, you know, coming to Bromwich+Smith to really bring that combined experience to take care of the whole person and not just one side.
Exactly. And are you also the first female president and CEO at Bromwich+Smith as well?
Yes, I have many firsts, and yes, I am the female president of Bromwich+Smith as well.
All right. Okay, so I'm curious then, you know, obviously with all this financial, you know, background that you have, just growing up as a little girl in Alberta, I guess, did you ever think about the financial industry as a career, or when did you start thinking about it and why?
That's a great question. Thank you. So again, born and raised in Alberta, and certainly I never really thought that I'd land in this industry, but it's funny how your life experiences and what happens around you really shapes who you are.
Mm.
So, you know, growing up poor, my parents, our family did not have a lot of money, so money was always a stressful situation for us. So it was something I kind of grew up around. And I had the experience of watching my own parents go through bankruptcy. I remember when the bank took our home. I remember that stress that happened in our family, the shame, again, that guilt, that embarrassment. And that really carried me for quite some time into my early adult life. And when we talk about financial literacy, you know, there wasn't a lot back when I was young. And so I experienced what a lot of Canadians do is intergenerational challenges with money. And I experienced my own challenges early in my adult career, going to school and not really knowing how to balance student loans and you know, manage a budget and pay for everything. And it wasn't until I reached out to someone for help, and they sat me down and helped me create a budget and helped me understand, you know, how to make ends meet and where I needed to change habits. And it was that moment where, you know, they didn't judge me. They truly wanted to help me. They really set me on the path of, again, financial wellness. And it was that moment where I really knew I needed to help others and give back. And that was kind of where the door opened to financial services. And that's what drives me as a person, as a leader, is to lead and serve a purposeful life, helping people overcome and hopefully thrive money challenges and get on the path to, you know, where they need to be in their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks very much, Shelley, for joining us today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right, that was Shelley Vandenberg, who is president and CEO of Bromwich+Smith. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.